Welcome to another day in the studio. Today we're going to be working with synthesizers, including some that are part of the built-in effects and instruments that comes loaded with Logic Pro 11. So let's begin. Welcome to Logic Pro 11, and in front of us we got the project that we're going to use to keep developing this track. I'm going to press play just for us to have an idea of what kind of environment we're going to be working with, and then I'm going to explain the whole process for today. Here we go. Okay, it already has plenty of action going on, but as you can tell, there are some instruments that I decided to keep muted. More on that later because they're part of the whole track, but I don't want them to get in the way of what we're doing. And also, if you're eagle-eyed, as you are right now, you can see in front of us the mixer, and you can also realize that I have plenty of tracks that are all the way down, fader-wise. Why? Because I left some of the space while working on the rhythmic section. The drums and the percussions are part of the track, which you can watch in previous episodes of this series. I decided to open up the space for my mix so I can focus on the different instruments or the instruments that I was working on at the moment. Now that I'm ready to get with the rest of the song, let's begin. I'm going to first introduce the new instruments that are part of the track so we can see how they interact with the rest in action. Here we go. All right, it adds plenty of personality, and now the track feels fuller and much more energetic. The issue is that some of the sounds are a bit kind of sterile to my taste, so I'm gonna add a little bit of extra flair. So let's begin. The first one we're gonna be working on is gonna be Aggro, which is this guy over here. And as you can tell, I am using this fantastic synthesizer. This is called Generate, and it's simply excellent. This is the sound of it. Listen to it. It's already gnarly, aggressive, and punchy. Love it. And can you believe me if I tell you that this is actually the default setting? This is the first sound you are prompted with as soon as you load this bad boy up. It's that good. Okay, now let's play around with it for a few seconds because I like what it's doing and I'm going to use this sound as my foundation. But first, let me see if by changing, for example, here, the way that our unison or the sound of our synthesizer develops by changing it to unison synthesizer, and I'm going to increase the level, the number of voices to 8. It will create a much more thicker sound. Let's see. That was awesome. A little bit too much to my taste, so let's see what we can do with it. I'm gonna lower the resonance over here of the synthesizer because the filter is kind of high on the resonance, and probably that's the reason why we got this super pronounced and thick sounding kind of flanger effect. Let's see. Like it a lot. Now let's see. I'm gonna open up and play with the frequency, the cutoff frequency. Getting somewhere, right? What happens is that I'm trying to cut off some of the extra. How can I put it? The hair, a little bit of the stuff that is way too aggressive sounding, because remember that this is going to be part of an already busy mix. So I'm going to try to use the frequency point, the point on which we're actually cutting out the high end of the sound by working with the frequency. I'm almost done. I kind of feel that we're getting somewhere as it is right now. I'm gonna change the pulse, which is how aggressive this cutoff is, while the track explains, so we can find that sweet spot. Here we go. That's the way. I like it. Now, What if we try some of the chorus? I'm gonna turn it on. And let's see, because I don't want to use this as a bass. We already have a very pronounced bass that is actually taking care of the low end of the track. So let's see how it sounds with the chorus. Wow. It's too much, but I think I can mix it in. So I'm gonna take the mix all the way down, and I'm gonna be adding it to taste. Here we go. Hey, sorry for interrupting, but by you watching this, it makes me think that you're enjoying what you're watching. So please let me know by clicking on the like button underneath, and also make sure to subscribe to this channel to get more videos like this coming down your way. Let's continue. Now let's see in context. Nice. Now, my plan for this guy is to actually become some form of extra layer for the distortion, as an extra layer of distortion covering the low end. Why? Because let me play back the track once again, and I'm gonna be introducing aggro and mass. Mass is actually this particular preset from Massive X. Listen to it first in context. You see, right? It's kind of a quasi sequence playing, but also has a little bit of percussion to it, plenty of action going on. My plan is, and as you could tell, it's the Massive X is actually covering mid to high end, while the aggro is covering basically the low end. That's why I put so much emphasis on the low cut, on the low pass filter. I'm gonna press play once again, but now I'm gonna blend them together. Here we go. Cool, but I'm not satisfied. I'm gonna go back to my aggro, and then I think I'm gonna once again go to my global, and I'm gonna change the unison to 4 voices, because it's a little bit too much. Even though it's great sounding, I think it was not necessarily speaking cutting through. Let's see. Pressing play. Now we're talking, man. Love it. But still, I feel that I could do more with it. So now I'm gonna insert an effect on the aggro synthesizer. I'm gonna go for a reverb, but I'm not gonna go for any normal reverb. I'm gonna go for the Eventide, what's the name? Mangled. This is such a cool reverb unit because it's gonna actually add distortion to the sound of the reverb. And yes, we're already dealing with a super gnarly sound, but let's see what it does. Out of the bat, no modifications whatsoever. The default setting. Hear that, right? That is what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna increase the decay a little bit, maybe controlling the lows and adding a little bit of the highs, because the lows are a bit they might overlap on top of the main frequencies created by the synthesizer itself. And in a simple way to understand this plugin, what you do with the highs or the lows is basically speaking telling the reverb which frequencies are going to be the loudest. Okay, so this is basically a volume control for the lows on the reverb circuit and the highs on the reverb circuit, and of course you got also a frequency with or a band that controls the mids. But in this case it allows you to pick and find the section on which you want that particular band to be effective. Now let's see, we're gonna apply a bit of extra overdrive, not that much because it's already kind of gnarly, and pre-delay please, and increasing the decay and making the size gigantic. So here we go. Let's see how it sounds like. Now I'm gonna compensate a little bit by reducing the input because we're hitting it too hot, and just to avoid any form of extra artifacts. That's better. And now I'm gonna compensate the output so we can have a proper monitoring, or we can compare correctly. Let's see. You know what? It's gonna be even better if I lower the output of this guy. It's way too loud. So let's see, maybe -4. And now we go back to Reverb. Let's see. Now we got proper monitoring. Very important whenever you're doing any form of mixing or even sound design, as it is in this case. Make sure that you can actually make conscious decisions based on you having actual confidence on what you are hearing. Because at the beginning, I felt that it was underwhelming. The sound of Mangled Verb was a little bit underwhelming because whenever I bypassed it, since the audio, as it is, the aggro synthesizer coming in was super loud, as soon as I bypassed the plugin, the aggro was louder. Therefore, my brain thought that it was sounding better, when in reality it was just louder. Now that we got a much more matched level-wise mix, we can tell the difference, and now it's very palpable. I like it. But I think I'm going to apply a little bit more of the effect, and also I'm going to increase the decay even more. Let's see how it sounds like. First by tone. That's awesome! Now, let's see in the context of the mix. Here we go. So good. Excellent. Now, let's play a little bit with the section over here. We're actually working with 2 built-in instruments. This is the actual studio strings from Logic Pro, which are very good sounding if you're looking for a very much a kind of in between a string machine or an actual real or a mellotron. That's the way I like to use them, because they're not necessarily speaking the most articulated library when it comes to instruments such as strings, but they are that good that could be used as a synthesizer, and I look at them as a sampler-based synthesizer, okay? So, first, I got the fiddle, and it sounds like this. In the context, as you can tell, is it adding extra layers of harmony. Very nice, right? It actually helps with the vibe and the overall tone of the song quite a lot. The thing is that it's a little bit too dry, it's a little bit too boring sounding, so let's play around with it. I'm gonna solo with, and let me show you this, the cutoff and the resonance. As I told you before, I look at these guys as if I were dealing with a synthesizer. See what happens. Very nice, right? Of course, I went a little bit berserk, and the thing is that there is no LFO to control this guy, so this would be a moment in which you will need to automate the living stuff out of this guy. So let's do it like this. I'm gonna have fun in the sun by showing you a nice trick. If you press letter V on your keyboard, not to be confused with V, but V, you will get this guy over here. This is actually the controls, what is known, if I recall correctly, I don't know, please remind me the name of this section of Logic. But the thing is that you now have access to mapping controls over here. And on my UF8 surface, I can actually assign any of these guys to be controlled by my controller over here. So I'm gonna first go here to the parameter section. And now I'm gonna select to assign an external controller to that particular knob. How do I do it? Easy. I select the knob I want to control. In this case, I'm going to work with the cutoff frequency, and I'm going to then go over here, external assignment, and I'm going to click on learn. By doing so, if I go to my controller, bada bing, bada bam, now I have control over it. Now I click learn once again, and now I can control this that particular knob. Let me show you the plugin as well. Here we go. Working properly. So we don't need this section anymore. So what I'm going to do now is play around with the track as it is and see what we can get with playing with the resonance. Sorry, the cutoff point. Here we go. Nice, nice, but this is in real need of a little bit of delay and reverb. So let's do it. I'm going to insert another plugin or another reverb, but in this case, let's go for something super stupid, dramatic, and kind of all over the place, all over the top, I would say, rather. Let's try Realm by Native Instruments. This is it's one of my favorite plugins. Once again, the default, I'm going to press play, and also solo. This is the default setting, and I'm going to be playing around with the frequency knob, okay? So let me make sure that you can have both of those plugins on screen. There they are, perfect. See what happens. Pay attention to the sound, okay? That was good, right? Now, this is something that I always like to do with Realm. I'm gonna just crank up the mix knob on the plugin all the way to the top, maybe increasing a little bit of the decay, because I want to create this kind of atmosphere, and also, particularly speaking, by the use of this cutoff. Let's see. Here we go. I think that could work. So I'm gonna unsolo. I'm gonna give me a few bars, because what I'm gonna do now is gonna be recording the automation. So let's do it. I'm gonna go over here on my Logic session, and then I'm gonna turn on automation over here, and then I'm gonna select latch. So that way, everything I do on my controller is gonna be recorded. And just to make sure, I'm gonna press the letter A on my keyboard so we can have access to the automation mode. So here we go. Let me do it in a less annoying fashion. Here we go. I'm gonna press play, and may the Emperor protect. Here we go. Okay, that was in the whole context of the mix. Now let me make sure that what I did is actually making sense, because probably it needs to be louder. Let's see. First, let's check if the automation worked. And just for you to know, this line is already telling me that it worked. It was properly tracked. Now let's see how it sounds by its own. Mistake. Look, I wanted to make the sound of my fiddle a little bit louder, but I forgot to turn off the automation mode. That's why I got this yellow line. I'm gonna do Command C, and then I'm gonna make sure that I select Read Now. Since the automation is only applied to the movement over the violin or the Studio Strings plugin, now I can freely change the positioning of the fader without creating a new automation lane, as you can see. So here we go. Let's now put it into the mix. Nice. Now let's do the final section over here, which is the strings. They sound like this. They're very quiet, dynamically speaking, so I'm going to take a look at that. I'm going to press the letter P on my keyboard, and yes, this is the reason why. Since we got plenty of dynamics over here, how do I know? Each of the notes are have a different color, and depending on the color, you know how loud they are velocity-wise, right? This is a very velocity-sensitive instrument, so what I'm going to do is make sure that all of them are as loud as they can be. So I'm going to go 127. You might be thinking, so it's easy. Just simply select everything and then push the velocity all the way to the top. Look at that. It doesn't work. Why? Because you're already selecting notes that are already cranked up to 127. How to do this correctly and without having to go to the job of changing individually speaking every single of the notes? Easy. You're going to select them all once again by pressing Command A, and then you're going to go to Functions, and then MIDI Transform, and then you're going to select Fixed MIDI or Fixed Velocity. And in here, I'm going to set this guy to be 127. Bam. And then I'm going to click on Select and Operate. And bada bing, bada bam. Every single note is now cranked up to the highest that it can go. That's how you do it. Now, pressing P again because we don't need this section again. And now I'm gonna listen to this. Okay, they are now loud enough, and they have this particular tone to them, like a little bit of a Juno, if that makes sense to you, a Juno synthesizer. So how about if we apply a little bit of chorus to it? Go for modulation, chorus, which to use? Let's try zero chorus by the fine people at Eventide. Let's see. Like it. But how about if we apply a bit of detuning, and also let's play around with the envelope so we can get a little bit of more modulation. Like it. But here's the deal. It's moving, and I think the attack is way too slow. I'm gonna bring back the rest of the mix, and now I'm gonna be working with this guy. See what happens. Awesome, right? It's already working. So I like it, and by controlling the attack, making it a little bit faster, or we are getting the notes sooner, allowing them to cut through the mix easier. I like what I hear, but now I will apply a little bit of compression, nothing extreme, maybe something just colorful. And I think the way to go is going to be using this particular channel strip that I like quite a lot for this particular application, which is the Center strip by Universal Audio. Universal Audio, yes, indeed. Let me close some of these windows. It's too many. And this is very simple. This guy is gonna control the gain, and also it comes with a very nice optical compressor, which is what I'm gonna engage. So here we go. Let's see what we get. Hell yeah, love it. And just to summarize what happened, this plugin actually adds plenty of character, color, a little bit of distortion, saturation, if you wish, to the sound of the path, or in this the strings. But in reality, I'm turning them into a synthesizer, and just by cranking up this guy, we added a little bit of extra texture. Then the compression, since we're dealing with an optical compressor, is gonna react based on how loud the signal becomes, okay? There's no way for me to change any parameter other than the amount of compression, and I think we got a very cool sounding and controlled sound. The issue is this. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of getting tired of the sound of the strings coming a little bit inconsistently louder from the left. This is happening due to this reason. Over here on the plugin, the studio strings has the auto voice split on. By turning it off, it's gonna keep everything where stereo-wise correctly, because the auto voice split is trying to is distributing the string arrangement across the stereo field the same way they would if you were dealing with an orchestra. Okay. Now we're talking. There you got it. I like what we got. And stay tuned because there is more videos like this coming.